Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today, we are here to talk about the 9 books that I read in the month of September. I feel so good about the amount that I read in September. I really focused on reading in September. I was like, I have been doing my other hobbies, which is great, but my love for reading just, it lives on. You know what I mean? I have to feed it, okay? So, I made it a priority, and I read a lot, so let's talk about it. The first book that I read this month was A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. I have talked about this quite a bit already on my channel, so I'll try to keep it kind of brief, but if you haven't heard this book follows a ambassador who is basically called to the capital of the empire, and her predecessor has died under mysterious circumstances. It seems like he was probably assassinated. So she doesn't know if she is next, if she's going to be safe when she gets there, and basically they have this technology on her station where you put all of your like memories and thoughts and personality into this chip that goes like in your brainstem, and then you can transfer all of that into another person's like chip. And so normally in a situation like this, she would have her predecessor's memories. That way, you know, when you're going into a political meeting, you remember all of the lead up to it because you have all of the memories of the predecessor, right? But her predecessor hasn't updated his in 15 years. So she's going in with outdated information and not knowing if she's going to be safe. This book is crazy. It is a very political, I think they describe it as, yes, an all-around brilliant space opera, and I agree with that. I think that it's fantastic. The political intrigue is like through the roof, and I think that it's complicated in a way that I really enjoyed because it made me kind of work for it a little bit. There's a lot of discussion about language in this book, and I found it really fascinating. Overall, I really enjoyed this. I gave it 4 stars, and I'm really looking forward to jumping into the sequel pretty soon here. I have it on my Kindle right now, so anytime I want, I'm jumping into the sequel, and I'm really excited to continue in this world. The next book that I read was Cannery by John Steinbeck. I also gave this 4 stars. This is a little slice of life, and it is following the people who live on Cannery Row. Cannery Row is in Monterey Bay, California. I've actually been there. I went last summer with my husband and his aunt. She took us to the aquarium there, which it's actually really cool. The aquarium used to be a cannery, and then they converted it into an aquarium, and they talk a lot about conservation and sardines and how they were fished almost to extinction because of these canneries. Anyway, so this is just kind of a slice of life story about the people who live on Cannery Row and what they do and how they live, and I really enjoyed it. I love John Steinbeck. I think his writing is absolutely fantastic. I think he does such a good job of dropping you into a story where you really feel like these are real people and you're just kind of watching their real lives. I mean, it feels so genuine. So I really enjoyed it. Let's see, I've read 4 Steinbecks now, which I'll talk about another one in just a minute. I think this ranks as 3rd in terms of how much I enjoyed them. Grapes of Wrath, number 1. East of Eden, number 2. Although I want to reread East of Eden. I also want to reread Grapes of Wrath, but I feel like upon reread East of Eden, I don't think it would overtake Grapes of Wrath in terms of being my favorite, but I think I would enjoy it more upon reread. And then Cannery Row. And then I'll tell you about the 4th one in just a minute. Just you wait. Basically, I read Grapes of Wrath last year and I was like, I need to read every Steinbeck. So that's my journey that I'm on. So yeah, I did talk about both of these books in my reading vlog earlier this month, or it was a reading and hobbies vlog. So check that out if you haven't seen it, and you can see kind of more of my in-depth thoughts. Another book that I talked about in that vlog, or maybe I only talked about, did I talk about A Memory Called Empire in that? I don't know, you'll have to watch it to find out. The next one that I read was Vera Wong's Guide to Snooping on a Dead Man by Jessie Q. Sutanto. If you watch that vlog, you know how much I struggle remembering that title for whatever reason. I don't know why. This book I gave, again, 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. This is the sequel. The first one is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. So basically you're following this elderly Chinese lady who lives in San Francisco who inserts herself into investigations. It's very fun, it's very kooky, it's very found family. I really enjoyed it. I think it's a fun, silly time, and this one had slightly darker themes than I thought that it was going to. That took me by surprise, but I think it was handled very well in an important conversation. So yeah, watch my vlog for more in-depth thoughts, but I really enjoyed that one. The next one that I read was City of All Seasons by Aliya Whiteley and Oliver K. Langmead, I think. I did not like this book. I did not like this book hardly at all. I gave it 2.5 stars. Let me tell you what it's about first, and then I'll tell you why I didn't like it. It is about these cousins who are trapped in these kind of alternate versions of the same city. So one is always in summer and one is always in winter, and they kind of find a way to communicate with each other. I thought this book was much more fantasy. It's not. It's kind of sci-fi, but it's kind of like dystopian, and it's way more just like family drama than I expected it to be, but it didn't make sense to me. There's so many things that I have a lot of questions. Also, it reads very young. It says in its adult novel, it doesn't read that way. It reads YA. The main characters are just so their internal monologue felt very young to me. Felt like I was reading from a teenager, and so that just kind of threw me off. And then also, this book is written by 2 different authors, and you have 2 different perspectives. Tell me why. Every single time I picked the book back up, I had to click on my Kindle to see what chapter I was in, to see whose perspective I was in, because I couldn't tell the difference between the male cousin and the female cousin, and then it's the same age, but they're different people. It read exactly the same. It read like a whiny teenage girl. In a bad way. I think that you can have a whiny teenage girl in a good way, and that can be an interesting narrative, but it felt very flat for me. I did not like it at all. So I don't recommend that one, but you know, maybe you'll like it. You could try it out. It had potential that I think it didn't match. The next one that I read was We Solve Murders by Richard Osman. This was on my fall TBR, and I'm so glad I got to it. I really enjoy Richard Osman's writing. I gave this one a 5-star. Basically, you are following she's like a private security guard for this big company, and she discovers some things and starts getting into trouble, and she doesn't know who she can trust, but she knows she can trust her father-in-law. And so she's like, I don't know who I can trust within this business, because there's some shady things happening, some framing happening. And so she's like, I know I can trust my father-in-law. So she calls her father-in-law, and he comes in to help. And it was just such a fun time. I think this would make a fantastic movie. And I'm not just saying that because the Thursday Murder Club just became a movie. I did think that movie was really great. I really enjoyed it. But I think this would be a fantastic movie. Like, the entire time I was reading it, I could picture it as a movie. And so I just thought it was really fun. It's exciting, and there's twists and turns that I didn't see coming. The storyline is fun, but then there's also that classic Richard Osman tugging of the heartstrings and family connections, and I really enjoyed that. The next one that I read was that John Steinbeck that I was telling you about earlier, and it was Of Mice and Men. And I gave this a 3.75. I did enjoy it. This is one of his shorter works, and basically you're following these 2 men who have a dream of having their own property, but they are extremely poor. So they go to work at this ranch, and one of the men is mentally disabled, and they run into some problems because of that. It is extremely sad. This is a very, very sad story. It ends in a really sad way. I feel like the ending is pretty famous, but I won't say it just in case you don't know what the ending is. But I still, even though I knew what the ending was, I still had the emotional impact of it. Again, I think Steinbeck does a fantastic job with his character work, where you really feel like they're real life people. I will say, this is one of his more controversial works because it is more vulgar and uses terminology that we do not use today. There's quite a few instances of that, but you have to remember when it was written, and it's written, the terminology that they're using and the vulgar way they're speaking is very accurate to what it was, right? So I'll say that. And I will say too, I don't think that it's Steinbeck saying it's okay or glorifying any of it in any way, because the people who are doing gross things, it's called out, like, you're a gross person. So yeah, Not my favorite of his, but something I can still appreciate. I just he's a fantastic author. So, yeah, that was Of Mice and Men. The next book that I read was The Giver by Lois Lowry. I hadn't read this book since, like, I don't know, 5th or 6th grade, I think. So it's been a while. It's been a little bit. And I think that it holds up. It really holds up. It was a lot more dystopian than I remembered it being as a child. I think I didn't clock some of the things. Basically, it's about this society where it's kind of like it's supposed to be like a utopian society, right? Where everybody has their very structured lives. You know, you have to wear the same gray tunic, nobody sees any color, and they do the same exact things every single day. It's very structured. At a certain age you get a bike, and a certain age you are allowed to, the girls are allowed to take the bows out of their hair, and then when they turn 12 they're given their work assignment where they'll train for a couple years, and then that is what they will do as their career for the rest of their lives. So you are following this boy named Jonas. He turns 12 and he is given the assignment of the receiver. And it's basically the receiver of all of the memories and all of the information of the past. And so you just follow him on that journey, and it's very sad. And I think that it's still very relevant. I think that it holds up, and I think that it is good to have young kids read it, like how I read it in 5th or 6th grade. I think that that is a good time of life to read it, because in that age you're around the same age as the main character, and you're really able to put yourself in the shoes, and as a teacher you'd be able to really facilitate some interesting conversations with the kids of what they got out of it. So I definitely think that still holds up, and yeah, I thought it was great. The next book that I read was With a Vengeance by Riley Sager. This book is so wild, you guys. It's wild in a way that only Riley Sager can be wild. I gave it 3.5 stars. I enjoyed my time reading it. Let me tell you what it's about. It's about this woman named Anna who gets together these people on a train, 6 people. The people who destroyed her family and destroyed her life. Essentially, we learn that her father owned this train company, and he had, signed this deal. Things went wrong, a train exploded and it killed 37 people, and he was put on trial because those 37 people some of them were soldiers being shipped off to World War II. And so he was put on trial as a traitor to the country because people thought it was a sabotage on purpose, and her brother was one of the ones that killed, and her mother took her own life as a result of all of this crazy stuff happening. So her family name was completely ruined. She lost her entire family, and she is going to get revenge on the people who did this to her. So she gets them all on a train. Let's go on a train to Chicago, she says. And then they start getting killed off one by one. And she's like, you can't die. I need my revenge. I need everybody to know that this was you, and you need to go to jail, so you can't be dead. And so she has to help them. She has to save them, but she hates them. It's messy. This book is crazy. It's just like off the walls, insane. Any crazy train scene that you can picture happens. But I think it was fun, although a lot of things didn't make sense, and ultimately that's why I gave it 3.5 stars, is because it's like, even though I had a good time reading it, there's so many questions, right? And there's so many points in this book where you're like, Anna, what are you doing? What are you doing? So yeah, I thought it was fun. I thought it was interesting, and I think that there's some very fun discussion about it online because of how kooky and wacky it is. So if you have read it, I would look at some of those videos because they're fun to watch, knowing all the context of things. But yeah, so it was a fun, silly time. I read it really quickly, and I did enjoy the process of reading it. And when it comes to reading Riley Sager in the future, I think maybe I will if I'm in the mood for a crazy wild time. The last book that I read in the month of September was Dracula by Bram Stoker. I love this book, you guys. This is one of my all-time favorite books. It's been one of my all-time favorite books for a really long time. I think I read it for the first time in high school, and I've reread it multiple times since then. It just is fantastic. Obviously, this follows the story of Dracula. Duh. But I think that a lot of people get intimidated by classics. This is one that I would recommend as a good starter point. That if you are intimidated by classics, you're intimidated by the language, I think this is a good place to start because it's written by journal entries and letters, and I think that keeps things moving and also kind of gives a more conversational tone, because if you're writing a letter to somebody, you're not going to be as formal. There is some very beautiful writing in here still, I will say, and also, like, I forgot the amazing love storyness of it all. Jonathan and Mina, like, get out of town. I love them. They're a great couple. They work hard for each other. You know what I mean? Like, they're there till the end. Anyway, it's fantastic. It keeps you on the edge of your seat. I love the characters are very fun, and yeah. I'm glad that I made time to reread it this year, because I've kind of been meaning to reread it for a long time, and I'm like, I'll get to it. So I'm glad that I did. I'm glad that I reread it just in time for the best month of the year to start, October. So, with that being said, my current read is Tortilla Flat by John Steinbeck. You're going to be hearing a lot about John Steinbeck from me, just as a heads up, because that is my goal, to read all of his books. So that's the one I'm on currently. I just started it last night. I'm only like, I don't know, how much am I into it? 5% maybe? Oh, I'm 10% in. So yeah, not very far at all. I just like got to chapter 3. So I don't have a lot of thoughts as of now, but stay tuned and I'll let you know what I think about it. Let me know, what was the best book you read in September? What was the worst book that you read in September? Have you read any of the books that I talked about? How did you feel about them? And I will see you in the next video. Bye!